Hello everyone. In this video, we'll try to understand the data manipulation language, which is called DML. So in our previous video, we already understood what is DDL, right? Which is data definition language. So we know what the DDL does, right? It's used to create a database or schema, and it is used to create a table where you can have metadata of the table, right? So we already seen how to create a the table, right? So where we pass the name of the student, score, class, so whatnot, right? So when you talk about DML, which is like data manipulation language, right, which is used to create a record, retrieve a record, update a record, and delete a record. When you say record, right, so when you talk about the student table which we created, in our previous video, if you are inserting any student details, right, that is nothing but creating a record or adding a record. When you're fetching any students records from the table, that's called retrieving. When you're updating any students details, like this personal information, score or whatnot, then it's updating a records. So when you're deleting, right, so the student information from the table, that's called deleting the record, right? And one more thing is, when you talk about DDL, so obviously in DDL we not have where condition, right? So why we use where condition? So we can use where condition in DML obviously, because if I want to fetch the student details, who the student details of the class 10, a 10th standard, a 9th standard, then I can put where the class equal to 9th standard, right? If I want to fetch the student details, whose score is the greater than 90, then I can put where the score equal to greater than or equal to 90. So we'll jump into MySQL Workbench, and we'll see couple of examples, like how to select the records from a table, how to insert a records, how to delete a records, right? So in this video, we'll try to understand the basics of inserting a record, deleting a record, and very simple, how to fetch a record. So in our upcoming series videos, so we'll see even more complex, right? So this is the table which we created yesterday. Let's try to fetch a record. Select star from student. So it is under the sys table. Let me run this. Right? Did you see? So I already have a couple of records inserted into it. Right? So now we'll see how to insert a new record in the table. So to insert, so this is the statement: insert into my table name, so start student, right? Values, I obviously need to insert the values. So what I need to insert? I need to insert the student ID, right? We know student ID is a primary key. When we are creating a table yesterday, so we said raw student as a primary key, and they should be unique across the records. So my student ID, so we already have 1 to 8, so let me say 9, right? And the name of the student is maybe Satish, right? And then we need to enter the score. Maybe he got 7 score, and he is into uh, maybe ninth standard. And what else? We enter the score, we enter the class, and he may be a B section, right? Now let's run this. So looks like a success. Now let's run the select statement. Did you see here? The record got inserted, right? So now if you see this insert query, so we have a statement called insert into, right? Which table and what values we are passing, right? So if you remember, right, so yesterday we created the table, right? And we said, hey boss, student ID is a primary key, and the student name should not be null, right? These are the two important the constraints which we set when we are creating a table. right? Now let me try to run the same thing again, right? Because the primary key 9 is already available in the table. Now let me run this. Did you see this? Duplicate entry 9 for this for the student not primary, which means obviously we said, right, we discussed, right, I cannot have two students with the same roll number, right? And that's where the primary key concept comes into the picture. So it makes the uniqueness across the records, across the students, right? Another one of the constraint which we created is the student name should not be null, right? Now maybe let me pass null here, and maybe I'll change the primary key. Now let me run this. Okay, so when you pass any value in a double quotation, that will consider as a string, right? So if you run this, it's a valid scenario if you see, right? So it is taking null as a the name of the student. So technically, so whoever is trying to insert the records in this table, they send the null value. It typically it looks like this, null. See, did you see? Student name cannot be null, right? Now we'll see how to delete a particular record or particular row, right? You remember, so we are here talking about, right? So DDL won't support where classes, where DML is nothing but our select, insert, delete, update, all these are DML, right? So see, obviously, right, using this particular statements like select, update, record, delete, we are manipulating the data, right? So it's called data manipulation, right? So obviously, all this belongs to the data manipulation tools. So obviously, delete is a part of the data manipulation. So now we'll see how to delete the record. Delete table sys dot student. So when I say delete tables is dot student, by default, it will delete all the records which is present in the table. That usually might not make sense, right? So deleting all the records in the table. So and that's where the where condition helps. So I'll say boss delete the records where my student underscore ID is equal to maybe 1. So we already have one record here, right? Let me run this. So it says you have an error in S. My bad. So it's delete from table, right? So delete from, this is my table name where student ID equal to 1. Did you see? It says one row affected here. Now let's go back and run the select query and see. See, the record got deleted successfully. So not just the where condition, the delete statement. We can also obviously use in select query. So which we'll discuss in our next video. So in our next video, we'll majorly focus on the select operations. So what are the things we can do in the select? Obviously, right, when you want to analyze the data, so first you have to select the data. You have to read the data, right? So select is one of the important the statement in any database, right? So if you want to analyze the data, so first you need to select the data. What kind of data you want to select? The data might be in different tables. How can you select the data from the different tables and merge together and you analyze the data, right? So that's our ultimate goal in our next the couple of videos. So as I said, in a couple of videos, we'll talk more about the select, the operations. So hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you.